You want to crack these brewskis on Mike?
Yes, because we're not alcoholics. We keep having to tell ourselves this.
This is a light beer. It doesn't count. All right, on three.
All right.
Wait, like, 3, 2, 1, go. Not 3, 2, go. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. Cheers.
Natty Light.
Ugh. You know, I've never.
What?
Actually
It's
had,
fine. It's like bowling alley
I've never
beer.
actually had natural light, so.
It's it's not gonna. It'll kill a few brain cells, but it's not horrible.
Oh, that tastes like college. Oh my god. Just that taste of like cheap beer, like hitting your mouth and just going. This is basically water. It just feels like a hangover. It's waiting to happen.
It's like fizzy wheat water.
Yeah. So, how's your week been? How's your week? When's the last? 2 weeks ago did we record?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I've been working on the CW show, The 100, kind of filling in at the end of the season, helping them wrap out.
I thought that was a. Was it always a TV show? I thought it was a.
It was a book.
A movie or something first.
It was a book and then a TV show.
Yeah.
There's
and
no
then
movie.
I thought they canceled it. So they're still going.
They're
with it,
still
clearly.
going, and I think they're getting season 5, so they'll be coming back.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're on season 5?
Well, they just finished season 4. They'll be going into season 5 in a few months.
Let's be honest. Has time travel occurred? Because I only remember season 1 and that was it.
I mean, they're all on Netflix now, if you have that. The first 3 seasons.
I mean, I guess. I guess I could watch the Netflix.
In answer to your query, no, time travel has not been invented. That would be pretty sweet, though. But I'm afraid there would be a rip in the time-space continuum.
Yeah, maybe. I did hear that you have a new job, but I don't think we should talk about it.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm telling you this, just because we don't want to jinx it. We've had other friends in the past that
We've
have
had
said...
friends who make a big deal out of their new gig,
And then
it kind of goes, hey man, you're not supposed to talk about that.
Yeah.
And then they get fired.
We won't say anybody by name or anything. Brian! But, you know...
I guess I should avoid it too, because some of the people on this show I got the job on, they have their own podcast about that show.
Oh.
That I might be on at some point. Just because they get everybody involved in that podcast.
What bastards.
Yeah.
What a bunch of bastards. Getting their famous friends on a podcast come on and talk about things that are relevant to the episode that you're about to record.
Yeah.
What kind of jerks would do that?
I don't know. So what's the plan for tonight?
I don't know. We might have something special happen. Maybe not. We're not sure yet. But it is Bill Paxton night.
Rest in peace. These natty lights are for Bill Paxton.
Yes. Natty lights for Bill Paxton.
Speak correctly.
Put a cheers for that.
Clink.
Oh, not many actor deaths. We've had a lot. It seems like.
Yeah.
Just because that generation seems to be.
Yeah. The
Passing
people
away.
who were in their 20s and 30s when we were kids are now, 20 years older than us, and they're starting to.
But there's only a few every so often that like strike you at the core.
Bill Paxton was
Just
one of those.
Bill Paxton was one.
I thought he was going to be a guy around till he was 95.
Yeah.
Apparently, he's had health issues. He had some sort of like rheumatoid fever when he was a kid, and that weakened his heart. So he was having heart surgery, probably related to that, and then he had a stroke post-surgery.
A couple weeks later, which I actually heard this story last week from work because people who knew him were telling us the story of how he had surgery like nearly 2 weeks, I guess on Valentine's Day.
Okay, so the surgery wasn't that day.
He had surgery and maybe just didn't have enough blood thinners or something that I don't know. In my understanding of it, it just sounds like too much blood would suddenly be pumped through or something.
Well,
and like
a stroke.
A stroke, which is the opposite, yeah.
Yeah. Like a stroke is a blood clot in the brain, isn't it?
Usually, yeah. It's
Or
it's
like
oxygen's not getting. So it's a stroke can be like a clot anywhere, really, I guess.
Okay.
Where, yeah, and it was just such a massive stroke, I guess he was in a coma. So it's
Pretty fucked up.
I can't think of. There's not that many actors. Like Robin Williams comes to mind.
Robin Williams was a big one.
That was like everyone feels like they lost their best friend or their best friend's dad died.
I remember the first one that hit me hard, and I wasn't even a fan of hers. The hip hop artist Aaliyah.
Oh, really?
Like way back in the day.
Plane crash?
Was it a plane crash or a car crash or something?
Plane crash, the whole airplane. They overloaded it and it weighed too much and fell out of the sky.
Dumb motherfuckers. Anyway, she was young and older than me. I don't know, I was 14 or something at the time, 15. Yeah. But she was young enough where I felt it, and I was like, "Oh man, this can happen to
anybody.
Anybody
with a private jet could fall out of the sky." She was supposed to, because she was cast in.
Queen of the Damned.
They had already started shooting the Matrix sequel with her in it.
They did?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Because she was the Jada Pinkett Smith role. She was in it, and they started filming with her, and then she died, and I think they had to go back and reshoot a lot of stuff.
Shit.
Because I remember that was how it was billed at the time, was, you know, Matrix actress is killed in a plane crash, and I was like, Carrie-Anne Moss. Oh
what?
No!
I don't remember that.
I was like, who's Aaliyah? I have no idea, but of course she, you know, I don't know how many albums. I don't think I've ever heard her music, but her name still pops up to this day. It seems like, but that wasn't someone who like affected me, you know, like when
it just made me pay attention.
When John Ritter died,
yeah,
I was like, man,
because I grew
there was
up
another guy like
watching the Three's Company reruns
like,
and stuff.
He was just one of those guys. It just seems like the dude that everybody'd love to have around.
And then, oops, your ticker's broken.
Yep, and that happened to Bill too, which really sucks. So, I guess that's a sign for everybody. Just enjoy it while you can.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I just heard on a different podcast, totally unrelated subject, the phrase "no one gets out of this alive," and that's very true.
Yeah,
everybody is gonna kick the bucket eventually. I mean, so please make your life worthwhile.
Well, you guys
don't be an asshole.
I'm gonna be a robot.
Huh?
I'm gonna be a robot.
What are you talking about?
I've decided. I'm gonna be a robot, so I'll live forever.
Oh God. You're gonna be a head in a jar like in Futurama.
I mean,
I would be all for that. I would love to have my head in a jar attached to a robot body and just, you know.
Your real head?
Yeah,
so
my
your
actual
head would be decayed on top of this robot body.
I don't know. It's like formaldehyde jars or something. Whatever. It's science fiction. Doesn't matter.
Did you see Cure for Wellness?
No.
Okay. We won't talk about it then, because who knows if people actually
I think somebody spoiled it for me, though. I think I know all about it. What are we doing for Bill Paxton tonight?
I don't know. It was. I mean, what movies did you bring?
I brought Frailty.
Check.
I brought A Simple Plan.
Check.
And I brought Predator 2.
Fuck yeah, you did.
I could have brought
What a
Aliens.
better way to celebrate Bill Paxton's life than to watch a movie where he gets his spine torn out of his back.
Yeah, like halfway through the movie. I guess I could have brought
Not his
Aliens.
better movies, like. But I guess that's the thing about Bill, is like everybody's seeing like his Game Over Mans and his
right
his I have a tiny penis movies, you know. Aliens and True Lies, of course. If you don't get those references, I'm not saying I have a tiny penis, because why would I say that?
It's so small, it's pathetic.
It's so small, it's pathetic. I haven't seen that in
Weird
ages.
Science too. I've been seeing that picture going around.
He's
online.
fucking everywhere. I was looking through, because I was looking to see what I have. And like Boxing Helena came up, and
which I didn't even realize.
No one, yeah, I don't. Why? I mean, that was directed by Jennifer Lynch, daughter of David Lynch. I think that's her name. And another fun one that I want to do eventually is called Slipstream, which no one probably remembers, which was directed by the director of Tron.
Yeah.
And stars Mark Hamill.
It was like, wasn't it trying to be a big sci-fi like visual effects epic thing?
Yeah.
And they just fell totally on their faces.
Flat. I mean, it's not a great movie, but it has an amazing cast.
Yeah.
So, and I think that was because of Tron. They just said, "Oh, Steven Lisberger, he did Tron, right?" I mean, that was groundbreaking. I mean,
but it all kind of came out.
But then you watch
shitty.
Tron, and you're like, "Well, Tron's actually a terrible movie. It's just
it's
a
dumb
cool
movie.
concept,
great idea, and the
great visual
the
effects
style.
for the time.
Yeah, the style of effects, shooting in black and white, and then animating all the blue and the red on top, was a real unique look. But holy shit, that's such a boring movie.
Yeah. But you know what's not boring?
What?
Frailty.
So we're watching it tonight.
We're gonna fucking watch Frailty, directed by Bill Paxton.
And starring Bill
Paxton. And TV's Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McCoffany.
Mahogany. Matthew Mahogany. And, I've seen this movie. I don't really remember much about it. I remember watching it because I heard that, he had directed it, but also because people were responding well to it and saying,
it actually got good reviews. It was a horror thriller kind of a movie, which it's rare for that genre to get well reviewed. So it stuck out in the crowd, I guess. And then, it's got sort of an infamous mind fuck of an ending. People like to talk about it as like when people on Reddit go like, what's the most fucked up ending for a movie you ever saw? Frailty comes up a lot.
See, I don't actually remember enough of it to even remember that.
Oh God, now you're going to be expecting some kind of
now I'm going to be like, way to go, Mark. You just fucking ruined it for me and everyone else.
Now your asshole's going to be puckered through the whole movie.
It might be. What else do we have to say about... I guess we really don't have much to say about this in particular. Like, I don't...
I
don't think we need to do a rating for it in advance because it's Bill Paxton. It's fucking 12 out of 10.
Let's not go crazy, okay?
Yeah, I mean, let's not go crazy. It should be at least a 15.
I did want to mention, I think... I haven't listened to a commentary track, so I'm totally talking out of my ass right now. But before this, a few years before this, Bill Paxton had done A Simple Plan, directed by Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi hit it big in the business with the Evil Dead movies. And this has sort of a creepy, bright light shining through cabin walls kind of a feel to it, like Evil Dead. So I wonder if those two started talking during A Simple Plan and Bill Paxton got the idea or some like directorial tips or something from Sam.
Right. Well, it wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know.
I mean...
Right out of my ass.
I mean, Bill was also a craftsman. Like, he started, as far as my understanding is that he wanted to be a director the whole time. And started out on set, and that's where he met James Cameron on set of some terrible movie in the art department.
No.
And they worked together, like, in production design and art department on some Roger Corman films.
Ah, shit.
Before he became an actor, I don't know what the first role it was that he, starred for somebody. I don't know if it was Cameron or someone else. I'm sure Cameron's the one who made him a star. Well, Weird Science came out first.
Yeah, it was earlier. I
but
had
it was
no
really
idea
Aliens.
He was interested in more than just acting.
Yeah, I guess that's just from this is just from reading up on him. Before since he's died.
You broke a cardinal rule of the podcast. You researched something.
I know.
We're not allowed to do that, dude.
But yeah, you bring what I didn't really research it for our podcast. We didn't talk about doing a Bill Paxton.
Okay. All right.
Double feature or anything before that. So, and we don't even know if we have time to do a second movie tonight. So,
we'll just do them all later.
Yeah. Right. Totally. So anyway, we might as well get this started so that we can potentially fit in a second movie.
Okay. Let's get going. Hey, didn't he also direct The Greatest Game Ever Played, that golf movie with Shia LaBeouf?
I think you did.
That's the Bill Paxton movie.
Shia LaBeouf, yeah.
I also heard that was a good movie. Considering it's about a kid
too, I think.
Playing golf.
Yeah.
I heard it was good.
A sociopath actor playing golf.
I heard he killed somebody.
All right, well, we'll come back after the movie, and maybe we'll have something special, maybe not.
Don't hold your breath, because then you would die.
Actually, you know what? Hold your breath, and then if you're still alive at the end of this, I'll come to your house and high-five you. Yeah.
I would like to be friends with an immortal.
Yeah. Okay, we need to watch a movie now.
You the agent in charge of the case?
That's right. What can I do for you?
I'm here because I can't live with what I know anymore. Listen, this may sound a little bit crazy, but I know who the goddamn killer is.
What makes you think that?
You hadn't even heard me out yet, and already you doubt me.
They were raised to obey their father.
Go do some homework.
To love him. To trust him.
Night, boys. Sleep tight.
Don't let those bed bugs bite.
Until...
Wake up. Got something to tell you.
What's wrong?
There are demons among us. I can see the demons, while other people can't.
I'm scared, Dad.
Nothing that crazy could be real.
angel told me that God would be sending weapons.
Maybe you just dreamed it. Maybe you're not right in the head.
God will be sending a list of the first 7 demons.
These are people's names.
And they'll look like people, but they're not.
Dad made up this whole thing. Do you understand?
Well, if it has to be done, it has to be done.
Is that true?
Why would I make it up?
It's all a big lie. I don't want to run away.
You are hiding something from me.
What is it you think I'm hiding?
When I lay my hands on them, I'll reveal them for what they truly are.
I got a pretty good idea what them bodies are.
I'll tell.
Craziest thing I've heard in a long time.
Ah! Check the rose garden.
I don't believe a word of it.
But it's true.
Bill Paxton,
Those were demons, so why can't you see that?
Matthew McConaughey,
Tell me the truth.
Sometimes truth defies reason.
You're crazy.
Only demons should fear me. You're not a demon, are you?
As long as I'm not bumping into stuff, but Mark, I don't know that I remembered much. I feel like I figured it out right away. The twist you're talking about.
Yes, the
beforehand.
twist.
Like it seems pretty obvious, but then again, I knew that there was a twist because you said,
Right, I
Hey,
kind
man.
of primed you to look out for something with the ending. Ooh.
yeah,
I don't think the twist is that obvious. They do a really good job of making Matthew McConaughey seem like the person he is.
Yeah.
Or who he says he is, I mean. I have a question for you to start off the conversation. If God told you to go out and kill demons, would you do it?
Oh yeah,
I
In a
would.
heartbeat.
I would. If I was getting
It's actually
visions...
already happened.
Oh my god.
I know. You want to go see my basement? It's pretty sweet.
You got a basement in this place?
I
How much
know.
you paying in rent?
Like $700 a month.
I mean, it's easy to throw everything like towards the mental illness side of the argument, but I mean, if I woke up in the middle of the night and I was getting a vision from God, I'd be like, holy shit, God just spoke to me, and I'm not religious, so that would really be effective.
It would
I
be
mean,
religious.
Yeah, it would be a real
Yeah,
religious experience for me.
So well, should we? Our surprise showed up. So should we introduce the surprise?
They only caught the last hour and 15 minutes or so of the
But
movie,
he's
but
familiar
I
with
think
the movie.
it,
He's
you
seen it
know,
before.
seen it before.
Well, this is our friend Byron Smith, editor extraordinaire.
Thanks.
Welcome, Byron.
Thanks for
to our
having me come
podcast.
by.
You're our first guest.
I am very privileged. That is an honor.
Yes.
That is awesome.
And the event that brings us together today is quite sad. Bill Paxton died.
Yeah.
But you were a producer, I hear, on Big Love.
Yes.
Big
Editor.
Bill Paxton.
Yes.
Yeah.
Editor
so you-
first
I
and foremost.
mean, yeah. Really, I was an editor, but then I was pretty involved, and they were nice enough to show that appreciation as the show went on, and so
Well, when we were talking about Bill Paxton the other day, and like I mentioned the podcast or whatever, and you mentioned specifically Frailty. At least today you did.
well, we were at.
What was it about Frailty that like?
I didn't know about it. You know, I was in kind of like a dark hole when I was in film school, and like after undergrad, and
Where'd you go?
I was going to Missouri State University, and
I'm sorry.
yeah, I know. Well, it's really, really funny because I've been in a meeting with Sam Raimi at 6 a.m, and his producer said there's no such place. It was a really crazy.
He actually just straight up. Did you tell him I went to Missouri State? And he was like, "No, I don't believe you. That doesn't exist."
Yeah, he said because it used to be out of another name, and I said, "Oh, they changed the name." And then he basically, I've had two really weird experiences in interviews in Hollywood, and that was one of them. And the other one was, but anyway, because I was trying to tell the guy, because he was from Kansas City, that they indeed changed the name, but he kind of like really stepped on it as if I was falsifying my my resume. And I had gone, so I kind of came out to LA and I didn't know anyone, and I went to film school at AFI at the American Film Institute. So that's the real film school. Mm-hmm. And I was really busy because there were only 9 editors and there was too many directors and there was too many projects to do. And so I was in this dark hole for a long time. And when this came out in 2001, I didn't,
Did they not realize that at AFI that the editing process takes a whole lot longer than directing something?
No, that was the start of my long line of abuse.
Jesus. So they basically just lined you up and said, all right, we've got 9 editors
and 15 directors. Go work with a dozen
literally
people.
got
50 films.
Have you ever had one of those experiences? Maybe, a lot of people have.
Getting pounded in the ass? I mean...
Yeah, where at the end of my first year there, I woke up. I was like leaving. I remember being in the parking lot and leaving and like, okay, first year is done. And then I woke up in bed the next thing I knew. And my girlfriend's like, you've been asleep for 24 hours.
Wow.
And I was like feeling really refreshed and like, wow, that would be I wish this could like be something that you could experience, and really make yourself sleep. She said you started shaking and you kind of fainted.
You kind of went through your own frailty.
I did.
Sounds like
you became rather frail. Yeah.
And
Did you see God?
I didn't know. I gotta tell you something, guys. I've got this friend named Otis, and he wants to talk to you. So no, like my so there was. I'm always the guy that hasn't seen a lot of movies. I'm always the one in the room who, hasn't seen that movie. But this movie, and so I'm working on Big Love, and I'm at lunch. And the crazy thing about Big Love was we would all eat together. And it was a real community. The filmmakers and the cast, we were...
What year was this?
This was in 2004, 2005. I think it was in...
And Frailty came out 2001?
2001.
So it could have been a few years, yeah.
And I'm sitting next to Chloe. And this is like a normal thing. Yeah, Chloe Sevigny, is just like, we would, we were in a building shooting Big Love in a town north of LA, in Santa Clarita, and it was always this like 35-mile drive every day, to get to work. And it was fascinating. And so we were on our own island. And we had these crazy experiences where it would snow up there, where we had earthquakes up there that you didn't have in LA. And Bill himself was like a gypsy. He was this refugee of sorts because he lived, in Ojai. And they would block his shoots, his shooting days, so that he wouldn't have to go home every night. And I was really impressed because I thought these were all movie stars like Jennifer Goodwin and Chloe and Jean Triplehorn, and I thought they all must have drivers, because a lot of people I'd worked with before that had drivers, but they didn't, and they actually drove from LA. Even though the producers and HBO were kind of like, do you want to live in a hotel? And they were like, we don't. We're ladies. I don't know if you know this, but we're ladies and we don't like to do that. And they
only 30 miles.
It's not
from
like
home.
Valencia or Santa Clarita is that far from LA.
Well, it's like
so many things
it's a pain.
Shoot up there, but
you don't want to drive out there every day. That's a pain. But you also don't want to be forced into a hotel instead of just going home. You're so close to home. You might as well just go home.
Driving from Ojai, on the other hand, no, that's just insane.
I was just
impressed.
impressed.
Like a solid hour or something.
Well, yeah, that's much further. I was just impressed that they didn't put up a fight about having a driver, because I think they could have gotten it.
Right.
And Bill lived in a hotel, when he shot up there, and because it was further away. But so we had this real community vibe about us, and like Chloe's sitting next to me one day at lunch, right? And it's just like, and we're talking about Bill, and like, what a colorful guy he is, And she mentioned Frailty, and she said, "You ever see Frailty?" And I'm like, "No." And she's like, "Boy, he's really good in that movie." And he directed it, you know, and I was like, I did not know any of this. I didn't know that he was a director, and I didn't know he'd even done his second film, and which then, you know, he would sometimes drop things about his experience as a director, you know, as the years progressed. Because I kind of I kind of spent 5 years of my life in Santa Clarita. And that was but Chloe was the one that, like, you know, and like, she's a person with great taste that, like, you know, comes from, she's done her homework.
She got big time, like, indie acting, like, background. And
yeah.
A lot of.
And she knows her stuff. Just, she's not only a star in her own right, she's also, she's really invested, and she's like a fan, a true fan of Hollywood herself. And so and it's funny because I watched the movie, but my memory's got a shelf life, I think, and also because I'm tired from working so much all the time, you know, I don't remember half of what I see.
When you sleep for 24 hours at a time, it kind of...
I mean, I wish that could happen. That unfortunately hasn't happened since 2000, but yeah, so that's what and I remember this movie being it's one that is, I don't know if you call it a cult classic, but or something that's going to
I would say so. I don't even know if it's really a cult classic. I think in the genre, people really respect this movie.
It's what I didn't remember is how well made it is. Like, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a great movie, but it's really fucking well made.
On the rewatch for the first 15 minutes or so, I was a little worried. It felt a little hokey. Yeah. It felt a little silly, but as it went on, it was really good and really effective.
I mean, it shows, like, the thought process of a quality director. And maybe that's just because directing sucks so much now in general that you just see someone who's, you know...
I mean, it's a freshman film.
Through.
Right. I did look at his credits beforehand. This is his first feater, definitely. But he had made a couple of shorts. Oh. But not for like 21
Including
years.
an SNL short.
Yeah, his first thing was an SNL thing in 1980.
I was like, what?
Well, I'd love to see that.
Pretty weird. Who knows where that is right now.
Well, you know, he started out as a guy in art department.
Yeah, Chad was just telling me that before.
Maybe you're the one who told me this. Because...
Well, he used to ride. So he and I are in a car one day. We're driving around Santa Clarita. I don't know why I was in a car with him, with Bill Paxton, and he's driving.
It's like unsafe
just for fun.
And he goes, you know, this reminds me of driving around with Sissy Spacek. Back when I was in art department.
He just called you, he basically referred to you as Sissy Spacek.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, like...
It's really ringing a bell.
It's the blonde hair, you know.
Yeah, you know, who was also from Texas. I mean, like, hey, she used to be in art departments.
Oh, yeah.
They used to work together, and like then he went back and forth between Texas and California. You know, as I got to know him, you know, you kind of like got to know you started to learn his whole life, and it wasn't just like myself. It was like everybody. The whole Hollywood, you know. I mean, did you ever meet him?
No, I never did.
I would have loved shockingly, to. I don't think I ever saw him in person either. I don't know how.
Because everybody's met him. I mean, like, he knew this was like, when he died, it's like Hollywood really lost a friend. Because, I mean, in the truest sense, because it's like everybody knows him and everybody's got a Bill Paxton story. And it's something very personal, and he was always such a good storyteller that he got to know everybody, and he would talk to you, and he would talk to everybody that he worked with about, you know, the industry, and because he, like, before he was a director, before he was an actor, when he was in art departments, you know. And as a set painter in a construction worker. He was like, he really, really knew what crews were going through, and he knew how to relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a very personable, very humble guy.
I could name several actors that aren't that way.
I'm sure.
I mean,
sure we all
it's
could.
too, I mean, and there's plenty of people that are that great, and like, but he's like exemplary in his own, like, kind of like, certainly somebody that if you said who's the one that's, who's got something special about them, then Bill, is immediately in my head, for those reasons.
Mm-hmm. I got a friend in Illinois, where I'm from. He's a film critic. Like, that's what he did for 30 years or something. And he, upon hearing of Bill's death, he posted a little thing on Facebook. Before an interview, like Jeff, my friend, was coming in to do the thing. He looked at Bill and he said, "Wow, you look just like my best friend." And Bill apparently said, "I get that a lot. I think it's why I get a lot of work." Because he's everybody's, people can immediately relate to him.
Yeah.
Without knowing him, they just like him. Except for Weird Science. That was a whole nother thing.
Well, he falls. It was like I was saying before. He falls into that bracket of celebrities or actors we've lost that you just like hit you right where it counts.
Yeah.
The Robin Williams and the John Ritters and the people that you feel like are your buddy.
And it's just out of nowhere. Like Kirk Douglas.
Still alive.
People are, he's still, I know he's still alive. When he goes, people will have been expecting it for some time. Because he's like, he's 100 years old now. But people like Bill Paxton, it doesn't seem like this was the time for him. He should have been around another couple decades at least.
So when you saw Frailty for the first time, what did you think?
I remember liking it. I remember it reminding me a lot of Bill the actor and seeing those
that's kind of terrifying.
Billisms.
But he's so nice in this movie.
In terms of,
he's so
in terms of his mannerisms, in terms of his acting style that I remember noticing, and I remember thinking how like cool this was. This writer had made this really, really awesome script, and really, I actually don't remember watching it this time, watching as Bill Paxton, the director, versus I think the first time I saw it, I was really paying attention to Bill Paxton, the actor, and he always he's joked on occasion about like how he cast himself in this movie because it was like one less actor that he had to talk to, and deal with, and it was like it was great because then it could kill two birds with one stone, and I think that I've grown a lot myself, and I'm still not as like as much of a critic as some of my friends, but I remember thinking like this time, seeing some of those kinds of things, those things we've seen before or devices, but I mean, for the freshman director, I really think that there's some, he does a good job, but then at the same time, I mean, I really like the script because I don't see the twists coming in the beginning. I'm like, Matthew McConaughey, why did they cast, it's probably because, it's probably because that kid was so strong, that the kid playing Fenton is so much stronger than the kid playing Adam, and he's got a more complex role. So even though Matthew McConaughey's blonde,
right, you don't even think about that.
I'm justifying it. I'm like, that's why. Well, it's because of casting choices, and they probably read of 3,000 kids,
right?
and
that kid's still acting today. The main one.
I saw on IMDb their little headshots are of them grown up, so apparently they're still at it.
Yeah,
both of them.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It showed a lot of craft. Like, it was very Hitchcockian.
Yeah.
I thought it was very well controlled.
Yeah.
And that's Hitchcockian.
It's not like most, actors turn directors who, just show up and basically all the tech people they've known through the years basically run the show.
Yeah.
And they're just controlling the acting.
They shoot a play, essentially.
Yeah.
This is not that.
This has a very cinematic vision to it. Did he ever direct any Big Love?
No, he didn't. But and it was kind of funny because I never really. He kind of like kept himself as the star, and he could have been somebody that like could have asked for dailies. He could have demanded that kind of thing. But
was he a producer on the show too?
I don't think he was.
He just showed. Yeah.
I'm actually not sure. I think he. Something wants to tell me that he was, but if I remember right, he wasn't. And that might have been the whole cast of Big Love was pretty amazing. I mean, we had Harry Dean Stanton, and we had Bruce Dern, and there were some really good guest stars who have we had the kid from Breaking Bad,
Aaron Paul.
Yeah, so we had Aaron Paul and and we had Amanda Seyfried, I mean, just roaming around, growing up on set, and kind of before they were
the names
mega stars. That they are now. But you
were telling me you'd be going home at night and he would stop you.
Well, it was really I mean, it would start at lunch. It would start at breakfast because, and I would work late and I would get there late. I would come in late, but the commissary, we had this catering that was really good, and they served breakfast and lunch every day and sometimes dinner. And
for editorial too.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, if editorial was on location with everybody else, then everybody would get to have the same.
That's true. I guess.
Because we were in such close proximity, I could be there in 15 steps. I could be on set in
I guess I'm just so used to our situation now, working on another show where it's production's on the other side of the country.
I mean, we're the bastard stepchild.
Really we are. They don't even know we
exist. It's so. I mean, they don't know, and no one, and it's a shame, I mean, the way that film is shot out of this side of this town now. But Big Love, I was 15 steps away, and in the morning, this guy who now works for Netflix, this producer on Big Love, I remember would be reading the paper and would read and Bill would start off a lot of days with the New York Times, and Peter reminded me of this the other day. He works at Netflix now, and he was telling me how Bill would start the day at breakfast reading the New York Times obituaries, and he'd be reading about what people had done with their lives, and really invested in those stories, and it was almost like a motivation for him.
Wow.
And then, I mean, then
it's an interesting way to start your day.
I mean, kind of morbid, but it was
it's a little morbid. But actually, I could see what you'd get value out of seeing what people did and how that would kind of pump you up, man.
It really, because that's where it was coming from, and I only really witnessed it a couple of times, because I was the first thing. Because I walked in. I remember walking in once, and Peter and Bill were sitting there, and Peter's like, "We're reading the New York Times obituaries. Look at this." And Bill read me an obit, and I remember being like, "That's morbid." Oh, I get it. And then thinking immediately after that, "Oh, this is pretty," because death is the biggest motivator. And then at lunch though, we would sit together. We'd go over first, and before the set had broken for lunch, and then we would kind of be finishing, and everybody would start to be picking up their stuff to go back to work, and Bill would come in sort of, more one of the last ones, and we would be sitting as a group together, and he'd beeline for us because we were kind of full and not so much filtering out like everybody else, and he'd be like, "Are y'all leaving?" And we'd be like, "Oh no, we're not leaving actually." And then we'd kind of like be like, we would be kind of like chagrined, but not because he'd want to come and hang with us. And I mean, that was great, but we were like, "Oh no, we're going to be here an hour." Because because he was such like a good buddy, like a good conversationalist, and that's exactly what would happen. And it would just mess up your afternoon, getting back to work, because he'd sit down and he'd start talking about Kennedy, actually, because he was from Texas, and he remembers seeing Kennedy the day he was shot. He saw Kennedy speak at Hotel Texas, and then he went back to school. I guess his dad took him back to school, and he got to school, and he kind of like went to recess after lunch at school, and he came back in, and like he went to a Catholic school, and the nuns said, "Put your heads down. We have something to tell you." And the nun said that President Kennedy's been killed, has died, and it was a crazy moment, because he would just talk about it a lot, and he actually like really wanted to make this series that about on JFK's 50th anniversary, which he took to Playtone. And it didn't quite get It didn't get made the way he wanted it to be made. I don't think at all. So he wasn't really involved with it, but he like took the original idea. He kind of like got this thing started based on this book. And then likewise, yeah. So at the end of the day, I'd be like getting ready to head out, and a lot of times they would shoot late. And it'd be about 9 o'clock, and I'd be thinking, "Oh, I'm going to get out of here sort of early." And I'd be kind of like sneaking away, because sometimes directors would come by the cutting room, being there on set. They'd find a way to come and see me as like a break. And so I'd kind of be sneaking out of there sometimes and thinking I'm beelining to my car. And I mean, I'm not kidding you. I'd be rounding the corner in the parking lot, and like Bill would come around the corner, and he'd be out of nowhere, and he'd be like, "Hey dude, are you done?" He's like, "I'm done too. Let's go get a beer. Let's go to my trailer." He's like, "In my trailer, let's get a beer." And it was just like, okay, wow.
There goes my night.
I mean, yeah, it would, because then it's not like you want to like have a beer and then like drive home or anything, because I mean,
Santa Clarita.
It's funny because I really wanted to get like, but it's really great what
having a natty ice or natural light.
Yeah, because it's really pertinent, because that's kind of like what he would hand me.
He would go for like PBR and
I mean, it was
Natty Light.
Bud Light was like what he always had in his trailer. And we would and we would talk for like an hour, and then they'd wrap, and I'd hear all the cars leaving. And I mean, like it was pretty incredible. He didn't have
to go home. He just went to the hotel.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, like, and then he'd kick me out, and all right, see ya tomorrow.
Yeah, it's like, oh boy,
I'm like,
it's
man, I got a
now.
45 minute. Yeah, exactly. Because then I would have, I go out, and my car's the last one in the parking lot. But that was, yeah. So like, I think I got out of there earlier, and then he's like, I'm like there until, and he's talking about Cameron, and just telling. I mean, like he was very omnipresent. I mean, there was this one time that my phone rings, and I answer, and it's a good buddy who became a producer, associate producer himself on the show, and he was the line producer's assistant. He was one of our executive producer's assistants, and he's like, "Hey, Byron, you got any money on you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, a little
This is
bit."
against the union rules.
I'm like,
You can't take the money back.
he's like, "Hey, do you have any money?" And I'm like, "I've got a little." I'm like, "I think I've got $40." And I really think maybe I only had like $20. I didn't have much on me. And I'm like, he's like, "Can I have it?" And I'm like, "Well, sure. What's going?" He's like, "Come down to the production office." And so I walked down to the production office, and Blair's like, "Okay, dude. And it was a Friday, and the banks had closed. It was past the bank hours already. And he goes, "The Oscars are this weekend," or I think it was the Oscars. And he goes, "Bill, the Oscars are tomorrow." And it was something like that. And he goes, "Bill needs money because he's going to go to the Oscars and he doesn't have any cash for a driver and for this and that and yada yada for his weekend. And I'm trying to make a collection of like everybody." And so like I give him $20. He's like, "Thanks." And like because Bill had called and said, "Hey, do we have some petty cash that I can borrow for?" And the funny thing was, it was the end of the week. There was no petty cash in the office. It was like the end of the week, the end of the month. I don't even remember if it was the Oscars or the Golden Globes or the Emmys.
I think the producer just ran off with your money, dude.
Yeah, it was funny because I got the money back. It was hilarious. I mean, like, it was just like, and but Bill didn't have time to go to the bank. And he didn't have like a personal assistant running around or anything. I mean, like, it was just like, all of a sudden it was a thing. And
collective effort.
The executive producers were coming by and shelling out, hundreds of dollars because they had money. So that Bill could because it was just like you couldn't go to the ATM and pull out like $1,000 or like $700.
There's a limit.
Especially then. And
Uber did not exist.
There was
for the Oscars.
Yeah. There was this restaurant up there, and the writers, Big Love writers, would go, and sometimes they'd stop at In-N-Out Burger on the way home, and because up there in Santa Clarita, the In-N-Out exit is called Hamburger Hill, because everybody going up driving out of LA.
Go. That's where I always stop.
That's where you stop on the way, and it's like midnight, they said, and like. They go in and they're like, wait. And Santa Clarita is not like a cow town. It's not like a totally small town. It's a big enough town. And they're in the parking lot. And I think they were like, surely Bill can't be in there. And they walk in and they're just famished and they're exhausted. And they like walk in. And no shit, Paxton's in there. Getting a burger as well. So it was like constant.
Well, fuck, man, it's In-N-Out. It's got to be in there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the same thing happened. There was only one sushi place up there, and me and a director went in one night. Jim McKay. So Jim McKay's directing an episode, and like Jim and I had worked together before, and we're like. And there's one sushi place in Santa Clarita, and we go in and we sit down, and then all of a sudden Bill just slides right in beside Jim McKay, and he's like, man, and he's talking about his hotel, and he's like, yeah, I really like the room service in the hotel, but I thought I'd come down for some sushi, and
So basically, you're saying that for the 5 or 6 years of Big Love,
He was
Bill
very
was
lonely and stalking
Paxton was
everybody.
everywhere in
He
Santa
was-
Clarita all at once.
But that's the thing about,
He was
and that was what,
omnipresent.
I
that
wonder
was-
how many places have his picture up on the wall.
Yeah.
You know, like the laundromat or what have you.
right. I mean, yeah. I mean, because I've had so many people, I'm like, I would talk about like, oh, Bill Paxton's amazing, he's great. And another person's like, oh yeah, I know. You know, another guy we're working on. Like, he knows everybody in town. Like, I was getting my haircut. I saw him at the barbershop the other day. And I was like, where? And they're like, Fairfax and Melrose. I mean, duh. You know, like, that's where I get my haircut. And Bill was in there. And it's like, really? And yeah, you know, so forth.
Just in Valencia like an hour ago. How did he get there?
Because he just got to know everybody. I mean, it was just fascinating.
It's disappointing because when I was at Comic-Con last year, at San Diego Comic-Con, I was waiting in line for the Aliens panel that they had.
Oh yeah, I saw you.
So that would have been my one chance to see him,
Right.
at least in person, in the flesh before. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but yeah.
That line was
we
killer.
couldn't. It was.
No,
It was
I mean,
insane.
it was packed. There was no
Couldn't
way to
get
get
in.
in.
Now,
Yeah.
do you think that? Do you think Paxton would, if he didn't have like a love for acting, or people didn't love him as an actor, do you think he would have directed more? I feel like I read some sort of.
Yeah, he was trying to get pots. He was always telling me pots in the fire.
Somebody was
he
writing
directed
about.
a movie that's supposed to come out in 2017.
Oh wow.
It didn't say it was like in pre-production. I think it's made, and maybe it's in post.
Well, I saw
it's
he's in
called
the
The Bottoms.
I saw he was in the Circle also
Yeah, he's in the Circle.
with Tom Hanks and Emma Watson.
Mm-hmm.
He's in like a million things. Like he's in Commando.
He's in my dreams. Is he in Commando?
I didn't know he was in
Fuck, man.
Commando.
I think
What's
so.
what I was looking at? We were looking at earlier, and I was like, he's in Boxing Helena. Like, how many fucking movies does this guy do?
Right.
Like, he really was everywhere. He wasn't just Valencia
Yeah.
Right.
or the Fairfax barbershop.
Maybe he was just very agreeable. So when people asked him if he could do the movie, he just immediately said, "Sure, yeah,
Yeah, man.
let's do it." And then he's
Totally.
like, "Oh God, I've got like 17 movies this month."
Mm-hmm. He was even. Yeah. I mean, like he was. He. I think he was really drawn to directing. He would always. I know for one thing, he really. Who was the main character in Bonanza? Do you remember?
Oh, I never watched it.
Yeah, like I think his iconic character that he wanted to play or be was
The guy.
the patriarch of Bonanza.
Okay.
Makes sense.
He loved, I mean, that's why,
Maybe
he
that's
really
why
loved to
did,
be
like,
cowboys.
Hatfields and McCoy
And
McCoys.
Tombstone and, I mean, Big Love. And he wanted to be like,
What was he in Tombstone? Sorry.
I don't know.
Was he in Wyatt Earp with Kevin Costner?
I don't think so. But
Okay.
you would think that, I mean, he was just very like, he was drawn to that cowboy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And he was definitely, I that's why it's funny. That's Frailty. I think he would have been offered more roles to be the bad guy, like Frailty. That's why it's interesting, because he would talk about Bonanza all the time. And so why, it's funny that he does Frailty and he casts himself as,
Yeah, if he envisions himself as this hero, why would he do this?
Well, it's kind of what this character envisions himself as a hero.
That's a real good point. That's why he's such a
Right.
nice guy
He's
in this
like,
movie. You
He
never
believes, and then you kind of find out at the end that what he was saying was true.
but
Yeah.
that he's a demon slayer.
Yeah.
That he truly
Which
is.
I
Set
think
by
is the worst
God.
part of the movie, frankly. Like
Yeah,
when
where
they
they
reveal
actually
that
kinda
it's all
reveal-
real.
Well, at least
It
through
kinda-
the eyes of.
Yeah, true. It's
But
not
I
a
guess-
reliable narrator, as
Yeah.
they say.
Yeah, that's true.
We're only seeing it through Adam's eyes.
Mhm.
With the exception of the end.
Okay, I withdraw. I withdraw my comment.
I don't know.
Maybe
No,
that's
I don't know.
maybe
I
that's
don't know,
just
but
what
I
he
guess
just
when-
assumed that in Bonanza, like the patriarch himself went out and killed people at night, maybe. But that's just he maybe
You
mentally
know,
pictured this.
all those westerns, good guys killing bad guys. That's all it is. This was like a spiritual western, sort of, but not really.
Got any other last story?
Well,
before we kind of wrap this up.
I had a question. You mentioned you were on a phone meeting with Sam Raimi.
I was on a meeting with Sam Raimi.
Oh, in the room. Okay,
In
I
the
thought it was a
room.
phone thing. Sorry.
What were you?
6:30 and 6 in the morning
Well,
is when I had that meeting.
3 years before this, I think it was '98. They made A Simple Plan. Sam Raimi directed A Simple Plan with Bill Paxton in the lead.
Right.
Do you think, or have you heard, or anything in your conversations with Bill, did working with Sam Raimi like encourage him to go make Frailty? Because I saw a few like shades of Evil Dead in there with the creepy cellar and the axe murdering and the things like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's always been my theory that Sam got Bill to make Frailty.
Maybe. Yeah, you can
I could
really
buy
see
it
those
anyway.
similarities. Even the camera moves. Some of those devices that we were talking about, how feeling amateurish. This is kind of like funny. Frailty was made before those tweeners that people talk about now, where the genre, it spreads across a few different genres, and I can't really say Frailty's a horror movie.
Right. It's a thriller.
It's
Is it also a horror movie?
I know. It's weird.
It's a prequel to True Detective.
It's really messed up. Yeah, it's totally, right? I mean, McConaughey's in there talking to the FBI guy, like this interview thing. I mean, it's totally True Detective.
True Detective would have never happened without
Nick
Frailty.
Pizzolatto's like, I know how to make, a murder mystery. The Golden King, the Yellow King. There's a lot of, a lot of precursors in this. Probably so because, and I hated Simple Plan when I saw it.
Oh, I love it. It's one of my favorite movies.
It's funny, sometimes I saw that movie so long ago. I mean, like that was like last century when I saw that movie.
It's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm sure eventually I'll watch it again for this podcast. I wonder what it would be like for me to watch it now, because people love that movie. But I remember people sitting down and being like, "Oh, this is gonna be good." When you're watching a movie on video and you're like expecting glory. When I first saw Napoleon Dynamite, I was like, "That movie was terrible." I watched it alone. And then when I saw it for a second time with like two other people, you're
like, wow, this changed everything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the funny thing about Simple Plan was Bill Paxton's dad's in that. Mm-hmm. Did you know that? He didn't know his dad was going to be in it. Oh. His dad was like retiring or something and said, "Oh, I want to be an actor." And Bill Paxton was always like, "What?
Why would you do that?"
Yeah, and then he I think he started showing up in movies, and Bill Paxton walked into the production office the first day, and you know how they have the headshots of everyone in the production office, so you kind of so the crew can recognize when they're talking to an actor, Paxton walks in and he's like, he just glances and he sees his dad on the wall. He's like, "Why is my dad on that wall?" And they're like, "Well, because he's in the movie." And did you know he's in Frailty? Did you know Paxton's dad?
I saw his name in the credits.
It while we were watching it.
Yeah. That's why I asked if that guy was his dad, but it wasn't.
The janitor in the hallway?
Oh. Okay. I didn't know there was a janitor anywhere.
I don't remember seeing a janitor.
Where was the janitor?
It must have been in the very beginning.
Okay.
Or the FBI office.
Oh, yeah, because he gets there at the end of the business day while they're shutting down. He probably walks past the janitor somewhere.
That's such a Hitchcock's cameo. Like Hitchcock walking two pigs on the street.
Yeah.
Or something.
There's a picture in the newspaper in Lifeboat.
I want to know if Paxton's other movies, if they've had that same Hitchcockian feel to them.
Well, his other feature that has been released is The Greatest Game Ever Played.
Game, yeah.
That
which I haven't seen.
Definitely not so much.
Probably not Hitchcock.
It was more of a studio
Yeah.
I'm sure. I think it was probably like
Wasn't
he
it a
wanted to
Disney
go
movie?
out and prove he could make like a Disney movie and get hired. And I don't
I mean,
think it did well.
that's what.
I don't remember it being panned or anything. I just remember it being.
I remember getting
saying
good
it was
reviews,
okay.
but I don't think it was a big hit.
I wonder why he didn't move that over and try to carry it on. Maybe he did just say yes to everything, like you were saying. But it would have been nice to see him expand upon this. You know, like you're saying, this is kind of his freshman film. Like, expand upon his love for movies, which clearly is shown in this. I think, like the Hitchcockian style, or
It's fantastic to like think about that and how he was always around, but he never like influenced. And I've had stars go like, "Oh, I can't." I've had stars that, or actors, actresses that have come in my cutting room, and I'm like, "I gotta loop this line. Can you read this line for me?" And they're like, my mouth is dry. You know what would really like, could get me to read that line for you is if I saw some dailies. I mean, like, I'm not.
That would
kidding.
wet my whistle.
I'm not kidding. And he like never.
I was gonna say, did he ever like
never
con you into watching dailies and being like, oh, I don't like that take?
Yeah, no. I mean, like, what was funny was never, and that just shows how like naive and young I was, because I thought like everybody was like that. Everybody was that professional, and as that because he would actually come by the room, and because he'd been hanging out a little bit, and it wasn't like I ever felt like I needed to give his character special treatment or anything, and he would be leaving and he'd make up some joke to make it seem like we were even just chilling out, because we maybe had been talking a little bit about like, some shop talk about, inside baseball about the show. But he would like leave the room and he'd be like, yeah, man, just, pay me that $20 back whenever you need to. He'd be like fooling around with his wallet. Like an actor using their environment or something, and I'd be like, "You motherfucker, like we were just talking, and now he's gonna make it seem, and
doesn't want to seem too chummy.
He doesn't. Yeah, it's almost like yeah, exactly. Like if anybody saw him around the edit room, like that would be like maybe too close to the vest, or it would seem, even though, he was like just looking for a place to vent, or escape for a minute, because it was such kind of a close community,
Well, what I want to know, before we wrap this up, why were you talking to Sam Raimi now that you got us all?
It was
for hot and bothered.
He directed a pilot for Fox, and he 1 year, and
what year was this?
Oh man, like,
is that the one with Greg Kinnear?
Were you straight?
Yes,
I remember he did this thing.
At this point.
Yeah, no, that was like, it was just a few years ago, and like the Land of Oz was coming out that day.
Oh.
And he only had time. I mean, like, he was having his premiere that night at the El Capitan, and then they asked me to come by, and they were like, "Can you come by at 6:00 in the morning?"
Fuck.
At the Sony lot. And so I show up to the Madison Gate.
End of town.
Right. I roll up to the Madison Gate at 5:30, and I couldn't believe it that his assistant was like there in the office, and his day was so busy. He lived up to it. They were like, go in the office. He's on his way. And he comes in and he's wearing his coat and carrying a bag, and he doesn't even set it down, and he starts talking to me, right there from his doorway.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting because, even how when you go to the lot and you have, you get a drive on and it says what room you're going to, and then it says like the sponsor, the person that's hosting you,
mm-hmm.
and it's like some random name that you don't know because they're an assistant.
Yeah.
Or a PA. Or it's an alias. And of someone that doesn't exist. And right there I still have it. It's on my refrigerator because it says host Sam Raimi on my Sony Pass. It's hilarious. It's the funniest thing ever.
And the guard prints out your pass and is like, "Holy cow, you're going right through."
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
it's a blue letter.
So I'm guessing you didn't get the job then, if you couldn't remember the movie.
No, yeah. I didn't get the pilot. I didn't have a horse in the race.
It was called Rake.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Oh, I know this. I haven't seen the show, but I'm a Sam Raimi fan.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Paxton's got this story where he says so like his phone rings and it's Jim Cameron and Jim Cameron's like, "Hey, have you seen Evil Dead 2 yet?"
And what time of their life is this in?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't know when this was. It was when Evil Dead 2 came out.
All right, back
because
in the 80s,
that's when Cameron goes, "Hey, you seen Evil Dead 2?" And he goes, "What's Evil Dead 2?"
I haven't seen Evil Dead 1.
And then Cameron goes, "I'll pick you up. I'm on my way over. See you in 15 minutes or something like that." And he hangs up. And like, Paxy's like, "Okay," and like they went and saw it, and just like completely random because I was, yeah. I mean, the cool thing, Paxton's like of that era of this middle ground now, and it sucks that we've lost him and people like David Bowie because these people from these idols that we were saying, Chad, they were a step to Hitchcock or, to the Masters, to Peter Sellers, to who knows, that when you talk about the good old days, they were a link. I mean, I talked to Robin Wright, and she talks about being on set with these people that are gone now. And like how we can't, they're gone. And like the amount of wisdom they had, and what we gleaned from them and what they gleaned from them, it's just like diminished because we do see a lot of good, like amazing fundamentals in Frailty. I mean, like that camera work's pretty badass. There's focus is pretty good. I mean, hey, we're working with film here, but you at the same time we've in some ways we're making movies better, but then in a lot of ways there's a lot lost.
There's less thought put into it, I think, because it's all digital. You just go out and shoot as much as you want.
I don't want to go off on another tangent, but I remember the other day we were at lunch and someone brought up, how bad Armageddon is. And I remember being vehemently angry when I saw that movie in the theater. That I was so mad when that came out, and I was like, "You motherfuckers had all this money,
$12 on this,
and you made this campy piece of shit that some people loved." And I've actually come around on the movie, and I hate myself for it. I kind of like it now.
I hate you too.
I thank you, but it.
Just never say the same thing about Pearl Harbor.
I've never seen it, so, and I never will. But it made me wonder because now I know that if I saw a movie like that in the theater, I'd probably enjoy it, and I'd be like, "Oh, this is all right, cool, whatever," and just turn my brain off. But I wonder. I think society as a whole has done the same thing. Mm-hmm. They've just kind of gotten cool. All right, Transformers 12. All right, sweet. Let's just turn our brains off and.
It's funny though because there is so much craft. I mean, I go to that. I used to go to Surly Goat, this bar in West Hollywood a long time ago. They have really great. It was like when the whole craft brew thing started. They were the guys that, there's this bar close to my house that has a lot of good craft beer, and instead of a bar having sports on, they would play on silent. They would play a lot of, and I think I saw Dumb and Dumber 16 times. They would be playing those DVDs, and I'm sitting there half lit, and like, man, it's the sound's off, but I'm like, this is a good movie. This is not half bad. And the funny thing was, I was like, it really isn't. It was something about the craft. And another Paxton movie, Stripes, that I keep talking about. You know, I mean, he's in it.
Was he
but
in
like,
Stripes?
well, there's
the Bill Murray movie?
Yeah,
Was he in it?
I think so.
God.
I think so. I might be wrong. Am I wrong? Maybe I'm
Probably.
wrong.
We don't do research on this show.
It's okay.
But like, we, you know, there's a moment when they're all getting their haircut. They're going into boot camp and they're gonna get their haircut, and like, they shave everybody's head on camera, and the camera goes, and they put the camera on a dolly track. If they fuck that shot up, they're fucked.
Yeah.
They are fucked because all these stars, John Candy, Dan Aykroyd, I mean, like, they're all getting, anyway, they're all getting their haircut, and they all get them shaved right there in line, and everything's just like, it hits their mark. I mean, Fincher would have you stabilize that shot today, and I mean, like, I would love to put that shot up because I remember being in the Fincher school and then like seeing that shot and being like, holy cow, that's some good operating.
Yeah.
You know? And that's that's from a different era.
These days, they would get more than one take because you can always CG hair.
Right.
I mean,
God
it won't
damn
look quite right, but you could. It could happen.
Don't spread that. People might get ideas.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no more ideas. No.
We're not about ideas here.
Yeah.
God damn it. What are you trying to do to us?
Any parting thoughts for the...
No, man.
We got to be getting up there on the length of this one. This might be a new record for us.
Hour and 2 minutes and 5 seconds.
When you turn that tape off, then I'll really tell you some stories.
God
about.
damn it. All right, turn it off. Turn it off.
Okay, we're going.
All right, we're out of here.